Okay, it's 6:30. I'll call the meeting to order. Please join me in saluting the flag. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, this evening we're going to have a presentation by Colin Lentz from Stratford Regional Planning Commission, talking about the 10-year road transportation plan. So the floor is yours.
All right, thank you. Sure. I have some information to hand out in the packets for everyone. Just a couple for the back of the room. Thank you. So things are kind of ordered. You know,
Nope. Yep. I'll shuffle them. There you are.
Oh, thank
So yes, thank you all for inviting us here. I know it's a busy time of season, busy time of the year. So again, my name is Colin Lentz from the Stratford Regional Planning Commission. The commission is just one of many hats for the organization. We're also designated as a metropolitan planning organization. So the region of 18 communities is over 50,000 in population. So we're designated as a metropolitan transportation or metropolitan planning organization specifically for the transportation side. So that's why I'm here as the Planning Commission. We exist to communicate the local needs to the statewide process. So the original intent of these project solicitation meetings was to get projects from the local level, representing Brookfield's needs, into the statewide 10-year plan. So that the state of New Hampshire, the DOT, organizes federal funds and plans out for the next 10 years for state routes. So very few of those in Brookfield, obviously, but we want to expand that discussion beyond just the 10-year plan to local planning needs and ways that SRPC can help in a technical assistance role. So also here to talk about economic development while we're at it, and Diane spoke to me about very briefly about Brookfield's economic development, the very in-home businesses only, if I remember correctly. So just want to talk about transportation and economic development hand in hand. So I provided there are a couple of maps. The first one on top, it should be on top, with the locations of projects that are mapped out in the very short table on the next page. So these projects were solicited, were given to SRPC staff members in previous project solicitation rounds by select board members or DPW staff. And then we have the second map with the little squares on it. Those are locations where we've put down traffic counters per DOT's assignment. And then I also included a report on culvert assessments. That was done in Newmarket. We have this year we're planning to come up and do culvert assessments for the Brookfield area, and I wanted to talk to you about that. That's outside the 10-year plan, but I heard that roads are a priority issue on the town meeting and town budget this round. So if there aren't any other questions, or if there are any questions, I'd like to answer those now. I want to keep it brief because I know there are a number of things on the agenda. Questions?
Yes. On the second page that you handed out, it's a table of the projects.
Yes.
There's no price, or estimated cost rather, for the Moose Mountain road bridge.
Yes.
Do you know why that would have been?
So, I am not an engineer. We have some technical people in the office. In the past, my predecessors were able to generate a cost estimate for various projects. and they left no paper trail or evidence of how they did that. So I've been talking to the engineering folks at DOT to help the communities put together cost estimates for projects that they would like to see. The long and short of it is, the more information I can get to DOT staff, the easier it will be for them to look at a project and say, okay, we could program this in year X. Just to back up, any projects that are selected by DOT for the 10-year plan go into years 9 and 10 of that draft plan, which will be drafted at the end in the spring and will eventually be approved by governor and council, legislature, and the governor, most likely a year and a half from now. So it's a long process. So I'd also like to talk about other avenues for getting projects done. Bridges are a different thing. They go through a different process, and the state has a different funding stream to take care of those because they're such a critical piece of infrastructure. So a bridge doesn't have to be on a state road, and Diane and I spoke a little bit on the phone prior to coming up here about a local project. I forget what it's the Moose Mountain Road, the one that's on there. So we don't even have to stick to talking about the 10-year plan. If there are projects that need to get done and we can help with them, that's kind of why we're here. And so if it has to do with economic development, we can create an intersection there. The culverts, I brought that because that is such a critical factor to think about when planning road infrastructure. Is the culvert sized appropriately so that if we get a big storm, you don't want your critical evacuation route to get blown out in the middle of that storm? And that also connects to, on the back of the two-page handout on the culverts, it mentions aquatic organism passage. So that can the fish get up and down the stream to continue their spawning cycles, to replenish trout habitat or trout populations where people like to fish in Brookfield. Many intersecting pieces here. Any questions on that, or do we just want to dive into projects?
I guess, yes, I have a question, and I'm not going to be very well thought through, other than, why do we want your help? Well, I mean, what do you bring to the table for us?
We bring, it's mainly technical assistance. So we can come up here and set, we have radar counters that track traffic. If there's a specific location that there's a safety concern that folks have noticed up here, we can help you with collecting data on that information. The culverts, for instance, that's part of a statewide process, so we're trying to get as much information on the structural integrity of the stream crossings and how that affects the long-term resilience of the road. So it's mainly in a technical capacity. There are no strings attached. We're here to provide a service wherever it can be helpful to the folks at Brookfield, the planning, and the town process. So.
Yes, Diane.
And just correct me if I'm wrong, Colin, but your presence here tonight to talk about the 10-year plan is because you were compelled to do this outreach to all of the communities
Yes.
in your region as part of the Metropolitan Planning Organization.
Yes. So yes, thank you.
That's just flat out your job to do that. That has nothing to do with the technical assistance that's being.
Correct. Yeah. So there are 9 planning commissions in the state. 4 of those are designated as MPOs or metropolitan planning organizations because of their size. So everyone takes a different approach. We like to come to every one of our communities and stay in touch and see what the local on the ground needs and challenges are, and see if there's a way we can help. It's not a sales pitch. It's a service that's here for the taking, where it can be helpful. So part of this process is I've only been with the MPO for 3 years now, and this is my 2nd cycle of this process. Everything in the state happens on a 2-year cycle. So the one thing I'd like to improve on is not trying to schedule meetings during the town meeting and town budget cycle. because there's a lot going on the agenda at the select board and the planning boards and everything. So before I
you're-
start rambling, yeah.
So your engineering staff, are they professional engineers?
So we
Licensed?
don't have engineers. We are advisory only. We don't make rules, we don't enforce rules, we don't regulate or anything. We are advisory only, and some of the larger MPOs will have an engineering staff, but that's mainly the role of the districts and DOT. So we help with the planning level, we don't make policy, we provide technical assistance for the eventual engineering. So our role does not have to do with the actual project implementation as much. So many of our planners have worked on hundreds of plans over their careers, and they don't end up getting involved with the projects because that's the realm of engineers. And that's just not our expertise. Some of the larger ones, Boston MPO, they're going to have an engineering staff because it's a different setup, but we're a little smaller. Any other questions, things that weren't clear? Anything in the materials? So there's a longer packet in there at the end that lays out some of the issues.
One of these had talked about coast buses.
Yes.
I just happened to see that. And where does Brookfield fit in all that?
Into the transit system? Yes, you guys are a bit far out of the fixed route system as far as coast, but part of coast is the Alliance for Community Transportation, and that is the part of coast that coordinates the demand response transportation. So when we talk to many of the rural communities in the region, many of the residents are concerned with being able to age in place and still take part in the civic process, get to the grocery store, get to medical appointments. So that's demand response. And up here, I believe, I don't remember offhand what various service agencies serve Brookfield, but I believe Ready Rides, don't quote me on that, but I think Ready Rides might be in Brookfield or looking to expand in this area. And so that's demand response service, as I said, so they can call Ready Rides or the various agencies or Coast office and schedule a ride to a dialysis appointment. So it's not emergency.
Well, one of the things that I think of a couple of years ago when they used to have the van come for once a week, would come and take people from Wakefield to Brookfield. Nobody ever took them from
The
Brookfield.
Northwest.
Yeah, and my concern was that they would provide this service, but you had to get yourself out to the road to get in the bus or van. And that seemed kind of silly with somebody that's has a disability, hard getting around, the fact that you've got to get to them, it just never made sense to me.
And that's a good point, because that may have been one of the reasons why they had to cancel the Northwest, because of low ridership. All of the data that they looked at prior to that, I think it was around for about 3 years. The data said that there was plenty of need, but maybe the bus wasn't suited to fit that. So that's
I'll back you up for one other second.
Yeah.
I do some more church work in Rochester, and I think
Okay.
of people who definitely needed it, but they had to be within, I don't remember, half a mile from the bus route or something before they would go pick them up. And I think people that were just outside of that, and they were out of luck, and here were people that needed the service, but for some restraint, they were eliminated for it. I mean, it looks good on paper, we've got bus service, but, and by the way, I get to a plus on the buses. I see more buses picking up people in Rochester as an example. So they are getting more customers.
So what you're talking about, that's related to the coast fixed route. As a direct recipient of federal funds, as a transit provider, Coast is also obligated to serve anyone within that buffer around there, the half mile of the fixed route. Quarter mile, okay. There's another one that's a half mile, I get it mixed up. So within that quarter mile of the fixed route, they are obligated to provide service for folks that qualify for Americans with Disabilities Act, so the ADA paratransit. So they can call Coast and say, I can't make it to the bus on my own from my front door, will you come pick me up?
What about the poor person that lives a third of a mile away?
So that is the realm of the Alliance for Community Transportation, that they can call one of the services in Rochester, and there are a number in Rochester, that depending on whether they're on Medicaid or Medicare. Most of them are free. They're free. Ready Rides is a free service. There are a number of other services
Okay, thank you.
in the Rochester area. And Ready Rides is expanding very rapidly, so that more of those services are on the way to Brookfield.
Thank you.
One of those big issues that you reminded me when we were talking about the coast, they wouldn't pick you up unless you're at the end of your drive.
Yeah.
And likewise, on the way back, they would drop you at the end of your drive and you had to get to your house.
Yeah.
And we've got some long drives being
Mm-hmm.
up in the country.
Yeah.
So it really, in my opinion, wasn't designed for the rural environment.
Forget it, we have packages.
Yeah.
I mean,
And some of that I'm not totally aware on the rules. It depends on the service provider and what funding they get and other medical issues where they are legally required to not, they can provide door-to-door service, drive curb to curb, or some of them can go assist the person into their house. And that's completely dependent on insurance issues and other things, but it depends on the provider. But that's exactly the kind of stuff I want to hear, because I go to the Coast meetings and to the ACT meetings, and how we can improve service in Brookfield for those folks is exactly why I'm here. And we advocate, so one thing I'll add for the 10-year plan, we can talk about projects, but then I'm also involved, I present at the GASSET hearings that happen in our region and go to a number of them in Concord. And part of our role is one of advocacy. So advocating on behalf of Brookfield with those specific issues in mind and saying, ACT needs more assistance in this realm, or Coast needs more funding to accomplish these goals.
Can I follow up with that question?
sure.
We have a lot of the people in the town that work down in Portsmouth, down that area.
Mm-hmm.
So I see you have the Dover-Rochester Open Road toll conversion for $26 million. What on earth do we get for $26 million?
So that's on the table in the back.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
So that is, that's, I don't remember if it has the dates on there. That's a few years in the future. They're sort of in the preliminary engineering part of
What would it
converting.
do? What would it do?
What would it do for Brookfield?
No, I mean, what are you buying for $26 million? Is it gonna be one where you don't have to go through a toll booth, or, what's $26 million?
I unfortunately don't know the
Okay.
exact, what exactly everything the 26 million is buying. But it is converting Dover and Rochester toll booths to have the open road tolling that's like Hampton and the other one on 93, where you can drive through at highway speeds. So the 26 million might be connected to other parts of that, because it's also related somewhat to the Newington Dover project. That's sort of the tail end of that project. So continuing with, so that also might be turnpike funds. So the turnpikes are supported by tolls as people go through them. That money, by law, goes directly back to improving and maintaining the turnpikes. So that there is,
Among other things.
among other things. So there's, the federal funds are limited in that.
Okay, I know it just seemed like a lot of money to put for little wires or something that you go under, $26 million. I'm sorry, I just.
No, and it may be recycled. So the Dover one, for example, there's extremely limited right-of-way at the first Dover toll as you come over the bridge. So the plan for that, and this might be the answer that I'm long-winded in getting to, is that they're researching moving that about a mile north. So moving it up the route so that because they're just crunched for right-of-way in that area.
Okay, thank
So
you.
they need right-of-way.
Sorry to take all the time.
No, that's fine.
No, this is why I'm here. It's because I didn't get up here last round, and I want to hear what the on-the-ground issues are.
So, I want to ask it again. If we're going to put a bridge in, what would you do to help us put a bridge in? I mean, we do it ourselves, but what do you bring to the table for us?
I can be a source of improved communication to folks at DOT. Like I said, I don't have that much experience with projects, so it's a matter of planning and getting those projects on the ground. So one instance that might be helpful to illustrate for you is the Transportation Alternatives Program funding. It's a funding competitive grant process. We had 3 applications this past round, and SRPC was responsible for scoring those projects on a regional level. So with our technical advisor committee and policy committee of the 18 communities, developed a scoring process that was representative of the region, and then communicated the value of those projects to DOT, and all 3 of them scored in the top 10.
And they paid for them completely?
That is a separate, so that was an 80% federal, 20% match program. And that's just an example of the planning level work that I'm responsible for. So I'm...
But if it ends up that we go through with this process and it costs us more money than doing it ourselves, why do we want to do it?
That's a good question. So this part, getting the projects on the plan, is my role, and I can find out. So one thing I can do is I can go back and find out all the different ways to pay for a new bridge, and figure out if it will be more cost effective for you guys to just do it on your own. And sometimes, honestly, that's the case. And there are other folks at DOT that say sometimes it's going to be more efficient for you to get help in other ways, or just do it yourself rather than get it on the 10-year plan, because it's 10 years in the future. One thing I will mention, the newest federal requirements for states and NPOs like ours is called performance-based planning. So they want it's a way of tracking, are we investing dollars in the best way possible to fix the parts of the transportation system that are needed? So are we investing public transit dollars in such a way that they get folks door-to-door service? Are we investing in them so that they fix the bridges faster and make sure the roads stay in good condition from year to year? So as all these pieces of information will be tracked year to year. And so if DOT and the MPOs show that we're not keeping up on the bridges, or safety is, we're having an increase in fatal and serious injuries, that will change the funding landscape to more rapidly fix those problems, is the shortest way I can describe that, and it's still kind of in process. So in the next round, if the number of red list bridges keeps going up and up and up, that will put more pressure on states to fix those problems. And that's a little outside of your original question, and I may not have a very good answer for you, honestly.
Well, we have some state roads
Yeah.
that we try to get paved, that we try to have maintenance done on them. It doesn't happen.
I've got a question for you. You here, you're spending thousands of dollars and millions of dollars. I have a project for you that will probably cost $5 for them to fix. Maybe a little more. But it's in Wakefield, at the corner of Governor's Road and Route 16.
That project.
We've had complaints of people driving north, and you really don't know where the Governor's Road, even though there's signs if you're coming from Rochester to the left, you really don't see the intersection, or it's a T in the road, until you're almost past it. Now, we thought reflectors, that might be $2 each, something put there that would be in your scope of accomplishment that you could do right away. Drive north, and you'll see what we mean. On a dark night, you cannot see where that left is.
We do get a lot of feedback on that. People cannot find that, especially on a rainy, dark night. You cannot locate, even though there's a sign, it's coming, and there's a turn lane.
Yeah,
There's
they
a
say,
turn
the
lane.
turn
The turn lane's short, too.
Well, I don't know about that, but so you know it's coming, but when you can't find the road.
Yeah.
We get a lot of feedback on that one. We do. And that's an easy one, right?
That's
We don't need traffic lights. We don't need street lights. They're just asking for some reflectors
or something.
or something.
Yeah. So I'd have
So
to
it's
go
not
up
if
in
there's a street light.
Don't need a street light.
I know, I understand.
So I'd have to contact the districts on that, or otherwise it would be me doing it guerrilla style.
I mean, it is in Wakefield,
Gluing
but
it
It is
it
in
affects.
Wakefield, yeah.
Yeah, so my role will be communication in that part, in that role, and making sure that it's visibility. And honestly, that's a cheap one, and maybe that's one that districts can just handle on their own, because that's their
I
purview.
hope so.
Yeah.
For what?
Diane?
So, back to the bridge issue.
Yep.
One of the things that, when I realized it was we were starting this cycle and I saw that the bridge was on it, I was hopeful that perhaps there might be a way, given the new enabling legislation that requires the state requires, not just
Yeah.
suggests, state to take local concerns into account when they're planning a project, i.e. not overscaling a project, which there's lots of examples of that. But what I didn't understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, so the projects that are going on the current 10-year plan are already programmed for the first 8 years, period, and so that it's very unlikely that anything that we would come up with for a new project as an interest to Brookfield wouldn't be done for 10 years or longer.
If a project were to be put on the 10-year plan from Brookfield, then it would go in years 9 or 10 of the 10-year plan. And projects don't sort of inch along year by year in a conveyor system. Especially the performance-based planning I mentioned will probably change how those projects move within the 10-year plan. But it is a long and somewhat onerous process because it is all the projects in the state that will be funded through federal funds. And so there are many checks and balances and red tape processes that move those projects through the plan. And so that's part of why I'm here, is try to learn for myself how to move those projects through a different process, whether that's just recommending them to the state aid bridge funding source, which is state funds to fix bridges, or Barrington got, there are FEMA grants. That's kind of reactive. If the bridge blows out, then to get it replaced, we don't want that. Because that would be more expensive in the long run. But my goal is to help get those projects done as fast as possible, and sometimes the 10-year plan is not the fastest.
Okay, so
One thing I did notice on the 10-year plan list, are there feasibility studies or plans? Because there's so many bedroom communities that we head down to Dover, Rochester, and lots of times then I'm down in Boston. Are there studies to look into getting mass transit more developed to get down to Logan, to get down to Boston, rail service? And C&J is a private example. I know it's a private entity, of course, but a lot of times it's almost bogged down. You can't even park there. Are there plans of expanding that? Because the further we move out, the more we need to get into urban locations like Boston, obviously, to get on the either to go work in the city or to fly out of the airport, so on and so forth. So I don't know if those studies were ongoing or.
Maybe I could jump in. So I don't know of any specific studies, but so I'm running a separate but similar process to what Colin is. The Stratford Regional Planning Commission, in addition to being an RPC and an MPO, is identified as an economic development district by the federal government. So we have a comprehensive economic development strategy that is the plan for that. The projects that we have in the SEDS don't have any guaranteed funding, but being on that list is sort of a first step to being eligible for certain programs through the Economic Development Administration. We've also been told that being on this plan would make applications to other programs through either USDA or DOT potentially more competitive. If you're showing we're thinking about things from an economic standpoint in addition to transportation or in addition to this other thing. So a sort of study that would look at our northern communities and access to public transportation, access to getting down to Boston. Something like that seems like it would be a useful project that would fit within that sort of realm. In the case of the SEDS and in relation to the Economic Development District, we would need to identify where that funding would come from and apply for it. I can show you, so this is the existing priority projects list from the last time we did project solicitation. Brookfield and Wakefield collaborated. It's either on 2 or 3 projects related to the Cotton Valley Trail that are on this list. I think we probably started with the feasibility study and then got into some of the actual development of it. The way we really think about this plan is an opportunity for people to sort of share out things that are important to them, things that places they might be able to work together on some projects, and I think the Cotton Valley Trail is a great example of some communities finding common ground, local organizations that were interested in helping out and putting something together. So I guess to get back to your question with transportation, if Brookfield and Wakefield and our other northern communities were interested in some sort of a study going forward of what would improved transportation, public transportation look like, what would the access need to be like, what sort of rules would need to be in play if Coast wasn't thinking about door-to-door or inside your house to inside your appointment to back to inside your house when they put their service together. That was something that doing a little bit more study, more diligence might have found. And it might have been a better product from the get-go, or they might have said, you know what, with our regulations, we can't adequately serve this area. Let's try and find another organization to step in. So I would encourage you to sort of think beyond the stereotypical job creation, business attraction aspects of economic development if you're thinking about ways that we can help your community.
Well, one of the big issues that I think we need for some economic development is good bandwidth to the homes.
Yes.
We can't get it.
Yes.
Now, the reports that come out say we have adequate bandwidth. In reality, we don't. I mean, marginal DSL, no, in some locations, no cable whatsoever. And yet the reports that we see say, you guys have plenty of coverage up there. But you can't work from home if you don't have bandwidth.
Right. And so I had just looked through I think it was the 2015 statewide broadband survey, and one thing they have mentioned in the fine print under the maps where they're saying this is where you get 6 megabytes per second, this is 25, this is 100, is that those rates are reported by the providers, and they might be lumping in the commercial services with the residential, and they're just reporting their top speed. So I think some of the broadband advocacy groups have postcards that you can mail in to figure out exactly what your reported speed are. There are also online tests.
My point is we have no coverage.
Right.
And you're talking about economic development. We really don't need more roads and buses or whatever, because people want to work from home, but they can't.
Right, and I think broadband is a great example of something where it would be a good service to your community.
So what do we do to get it?
We could, so we do yearly updates to the SEDS with data. Right now, the best data we have on broadband, complete full disclosure, is what the state has from their broadband stuff. If that was something that we needed to build a way to track and get better data, more accurate data than what was in that initial research, we can look into that. If you would be interested in expanding service or a feasibility study or an existing condition study that is more tailored to the local community than the statewide survey might have been. Having it on the list would be the first step to being able to get funding to do it.
To do
To do
a study?
a study, or to starting a project of improving that broadband access.
How many years would that, say they agree, how many years out would that be, would you guess? 20, 10, or no? 5?
Broadband is something that's new to me. I'm not, I'm a city planner, so that's, I wouldn't feel comfortable giving you an
Okay,
accurate
no, I
guess.
see.
But I would say no matter how long it would take to actually get a study done, or getting a project together to improve that access, there isn't an expiration date for when you would need to get kicked off of the sites. So if it was something that's important to you at some point in the future, and the only thing that's preventing us from doing it is figuring out exactly who's going to do it, how much it's going to cost, and where the money's going to come from, I would say you can leave that project on our list until we figure those things out.
I just want to know if I'm going to be alive by the time it's done.
I don't think I can make any promises, but I can promise to work with you if it's something you feel is important.
It is really a hot button here in town. It really is. People want to work from home. A lot of head shaking here, and you can't get access.
Okay, so from your standpoint, do you think that this is something where if we did a more localized broadband study to be able to show statewide organizations, to be able to show the local companies that you're not adequately serving your region, that
Well, they know.
that would be a first step?
I believe they know it. I mean,
Okay.
they know that we're beyond the limits of DSL,
Mhm.
and you look on the pole, there's no cable, so you don't have
Mhm.
anything, and we can make a list, we had a list of people that wanted it, and it goes nowhere. So if you really want to help us get something done that the people of town would really appreciate,
Mm-hmm.
it would be, I believe, good access to the internet. Hi, Diane. You have internet, you have internet access? No, you don't have it either.
It's my Wi-Fi. But I do have a question for James.
Yeah.
Would it be of value for the Board of Selectmen to write a letter formally requesting this of the Stratford Regional Planning Commission?
I think probably the best way would be to, and we can talk about, some of the specific language, submitting it as a project of something that you would like to see done, either a study or specific advocacy. So the project is just a way of thinking about what is the scope of work? What exactly are we putting into this? And so if, because my question for you, I understand the end goal is to have improved internet access. What, from your perspective, needs to be done to make that happen? Do you feel that you need additional advocacy for the local providers?
When we call and
Is
ask,
it an infrastructure?
that's right, we call and ask for service.
Mhm.
The engineer comes out and looks and says it's not gonna happen. You're too far down the road. You live in the country, too far in the country.
Okay.
Yet, the reports say we've got good coverage.
Mhm.
It's just a big disconnect.
So I think my point was, we need to quantify that, and I thought that when you mentioned feasibility study, that would be that would be part of that, is to document and quantify the lack of that service to the community.
Mhm.
Now, is that something that would fit in this framework?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't want to be negative on it, but when we give that information to the companies, they say, we're not investing any more capital. Do you want to pay for it?
But who's quantifying it?
The-
If we quantify it independently,
Yes.
provide that information, rather than them telling us what they're providing.
Yes.
I think that goes a little bit further towards our argument that we don't have the kind of broadband that we expect.
So a next step too would be if they're saying that they aren't interested in the investment.
Yep.
So they would like the town to
Yep.
pay for the investment.
Or the individual.
We could also look for funding opportunities to pay for that investment.
Okay.
Again, that would be an application. We would need to identify sources. We would need to work with you on, submitting applications for something like that. And we can, whether or not that's something that the town would be interested in would be part of that conversation. If the town isn't interested in seeking, federal funding to expand that access or something, then that wouldn't be something that we would advocate moving forward with. But if that's something that you think would be important for your community, that's something that we can try and help.
Mr. Comeau, any question?
You did.
No, I just had a comment, because first you're dealing with a private free market company. They said they're not going to invest putting lines up anywhere. They said this specifically. Burlington, Vermont, I believe, thought it would be a good idea to bond out extending that system throughout their city. And it turned into a disaster because it's not cost effective. It's not free market. It was the government intervening, and then let's bond, put up internet, and then businesses are going to come. Didn't happen. It's free market. I contacted Spectrum. Spectrum's up here now. It used to be Time Warner.
Mm-hmm.
They're investing in other technologies, and they're not going to move. They won't. You have basically overall we have enough broadband, but their idea is we didn't tell you to move all the way out in the middle of nowhere. That's what they're not going to bring a line all the way out to your house because you want it. This is just what we hear. Now, what the answer is, I don't know. You can try to quantify it and try to say, like I tried to gather names together to show the company, this is how much more money you can make. They already know this. They've done studies already.
So, is the company's problem that it's a per capita cost for them to improve the infrastructure? They're thinking like house to house. I'm out of my depth here on the.
It doesn't go down the road. It's
Right. So
the trunk.
The other one was that there weren't enough houses. They had to have X number of houses within 1 mile, as I recall. We don't have it on every road.
So the density is there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
We prefer space between houses.
Yeah.
Sure.
So when I started at SRPC, the broadband plan was just kind of wrapping up, and so I wasn't in depth involved in that. But I don't know if you've seen or folks in town have seen, as part of that, they had an at-home bandwidth measuring tool. And now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know if you need the internet to measure the bandwidth with the tool, but that might be a way to do the data collection. So if we can...
If the tool says 0, you have no internet.
Yeah, and I don't remember how that would work.
Sorry.
But that's one thing that came to mind as part of that plan that could be an easy way to do the data collection. And if the answer is 0, then that's a pretty obvious answer. And if we can have, the number of people who have 0 bandwidth, 0 access, that could be part of a grant application process, and instead of trying to bond it or doing some heavy-handed process like that, because there are other organizations, and it could be a small. I know USDA does small rural development grants like that. Is it the what's the CDFA?
Community Development Finance Authority.
Yeah. So various organizations there could be workarounds to a mega bonding expenditure for the town that has too many question marks in the future. So maybe a long-winded way of saying there are ways to do the data collection with minimal effort, I think, and many other venues that may be more flexible than the transportation world, to be sure.
Okay. Thank you. Let's wrap this up. What do you need from us?
So if you guys want to look over the projects and get in touch with me in the future, I'll research the questions that you've given us, and we will and can get in touch with the select board, and I'll communicate maybe through through Diane or you, Mr. Zacher, since I have those contact information.
That's okay, that's fine. I think there is a lot of interest in, excuse me, in broadband.
Mhm.
So if we could do something, I think we could get some support locally
Yeah,
to gather data and see if we can get that deployed throughout the rest of the town.
yeah, so if, we could just communicate, I guess, for that, just about what would be, essentially the entire scope of what we're trying to do. Are we trying to figure out exactly what the existing service conditions are? Are we trying to figure out that plus what it would cost to improve service? Are we trying to figure out existing service conditions plus what it would cost, plus what options we might have for paying for that cost? Yeah, I guess just a conversation about what all would go into that would be all I need.
Okay. I guess I'd like to talk offline.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
I'll leave a stack of business cards, I think. James,
Okay.
they're still in the mail.
They have not made it yet.
Okay.
But, so,
All
a stack
right.
of business cards.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you all for, I know
Appreciate
it
it.
took a lot of time. And
That's all right.
Thanks so much.
Thank you
We
very
were
much.
learning.
No, not at all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll be
Thank
waiting
you.
for the reflector. Don't worry about it.
Thank you.
Most of the town, yeah.
Thank you.
As soon as he brought it, it was like,
I thought it was gonna be something
Oh, I
else.
knew it as soon as he brought it
You
up.
don't live on a town, West State Road? Okay. Back to our agenda.
26 million.
Meeting minutes from, what do we have here, the 24th and the 31st?
I make a motion to accept the January 24th minutes as drafted.
I second that motion.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. And then we have the 31st, which was the public hearing on the warrant article and the budget.
Thanks again, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Make a motion to accept the minutes of January 31st.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any other public comments? Okay, let's do treasurer.
Okay, money in the bank. We have a lot. I don't think I've ever had this much money. I really do need to get with the trustees, and I will email Richard Norton after this meeting and talk about transferring some money.
Please.
Because it's just, I
Yeah,
go here.
yeah. Yeah, 0.5% is not really cutting it.
So in the checking account, 68,640.24. In the savings account, here's the big one, 774,679.22. And in profile bank, 9,891.19 for a total of 853,210.65. So I think I need to transfer $500,000 out.
Yes. We have some school bills to pay.
We have, yep. So I would keep 350,000 or so to cover the next, my thought was to cover the next 3 months, and at least, not
Sure.
have to pull back everything at that point.
Because we can get the money back, I think he said within a week.
Yep. So, that's pretty much all I have, other than I'm working on reports and stuff like that. And
Okay.
I need
Did you get the
those.
planning board warrants yet?
No, I need those. I
Weren't
don't know
weren't
where
the
they are.
weren't the complete warrants up on the website?
I
With
didn't-
the 2 planning board warrants?
I don't think so.
I looked at the last emails I got from you, and I didn't see the planning board
I don't
ones
think
in
they've
there.
been updated on the website yet. I have moved them into a document that I'm working on. I think that's ready to go out.
Could you email me at least the verbiage so I could start? I need, DRA's portal was down this last weekend, but I've got to get those going so the selectmen can sign for the budget to be posted. It's got to be this weekend,
Okay.
if not before.
Along the lines of the treasurer's report, there's been a interest generated in our finances from the public. And I've been looking at some of the data that's been provided, and I just recognize that I'm not an accountant and I can't understand all the transactions and the details behind the town's accounting. So I'd like to propose that we have an outside firm do an audit of our books. Have a CPA come in or an outside company whatever the right words are, to certify that our books are correct. It's been a number of years since it's been done. And once the town has 750 people in it, we're obligated to go that route anyway. So in preparation, I'd like to put that on the table for consideration.
I guess the main thing we're gonna have to figure out is what's it gonna cost?
Yep.
How many years are we gonna do?
Well, I would just do the last year, 16.
Okay. Now, what kind of audit are we talking about? Not doing like a forensic audit where it's
A regular audit.
just a regular audit, which is.
There's 3 levels of auditing as far as the states, as far as the National Finance Officers Association is concerned. There's a review, which they just come out and look at a piece of paper or a couple pieces of paper. There's a compilation, and then there's an audit. An audit is where an individual or 1 or 2 individuals come out, go through transactions, go through papers, and ask questions probably of a couple of the selectmen, more with me, and then produce a report that says, here are things that could be fixed, here is what we find, but they would give you a report on what the shape of the books are.
But that sounds like a process check. Or do they actually look at,
They look at everything.
okay.
They're required to look at everything. Audits have come a long way since I started doing audits in the 1980s, and now there's more governance concerned with them than there was at that time.
So like all ins and outs.
All ins and outs, process, taking samples, but also looking at everything.
Okay.
I was on the board, I hate to think how many years ago, when we had an audit done, and the intention back then was to do it like every 5 years. It was dropped somewhere along the line, I can't recall. And I don't think there was necessarily an issue, but it was going to be the practice to do this. And they did come up, like you said, with things that we could improve, like they always do, they come up with something.
Right.
But could any of these possible numbers not working have anything to do with DRAs? You know, how they keep numbers and,
I don't believe so.
okay.
In my opinion, it's what's in the books versus what's in the town report.
See, and it's hard to believe, but I got an opinion on that. We should be able to take data right from the accounting system,
Yep.
put it right in the town report without any manipulation, because that's where we could be vulnerable.
Yes,
So
that doesn't happen.
what doesn't happen? It doesn't come directly, it gets
Manipulated.
manipulated, so we're vulnerable there.
Yep.
And I've been doing some research today, waiting for as an appointment. There is municipal software out there.
It's very expensive.
I understand that, that's a different issue.
Yep.
I mean, there was some software that even took care of our parking ticket issues.
Oh, that's good.
We don't need that one.
Not really.
Well, the other thing that nobody does yet in the state of New Hampshire so you have Avatar that does the forms for the tax collector and the assessor clerk. Nobody yet has produced software in New Hampshire to deal with DRA's financial forms. That's one of the big problems, in my mind.
Well, we can talk about that
Yeah.
later,
Yep.
later in the year. But right now, what do you think about it?
So the idea is we're gonna look in 2017 to have an outside firm audit,
The 16 books.
the 16 books. We will need to add money to the budget at town meeting.
Yep.
Obviously, the budget's already pretty well locked in.
Yep, we could answer the,
Would that be a line item we would add in?
It would be a line item.
Okay.
And I'm not sure whether it would,
we can't add a line on them at this point.
At town meeting, we can't?
No, it's after the hearing. We'll have to have another hearing. But we could add to the selectmen's expense line
okay.
and put it in there.
All right, just put it right there, put 10,000, we could probably.
Put
add some
$10,000 in.
You think that's
Do we have an auditor here in town? I thought somebody was an auditor.
Certified CPA?
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Dan was.
All right, but other than, we must have somebody
I don't-
around that we
Oh,
can pay
you know who
something.
a CPA is Amanda, but I don't know that she'd be. I don't know her current status as a CPA, and I don't know if she'd be willing to do it.
Well, I'm just thinking of paying somebody X number of dollars to come in and just take a quick look at the situation to relieve everybody's mind, to make a suggestion. So it might be money, for the sake of argument, a couple $100 for somebody to come and spend a couple hours looking at it and say, oh, this is what it is. It's simple. It's this, this, and this.
Right.
We still may need an audit, but it would seem like it would be worthwhile somebody coming in a couple hours and looking at it, because they may just pick off something and say, this is where it's going wrong. Everything's there. You've got to improve your system, but it's strictly a software issue. It's not a potential something.
I don't think that's gonna do it.
Nope. We spent a lot of time. I'm an engineer, not an accountant, and I was lost. So I think you need
Professionals.
professionals. Yes, Diane?
Excuse me. So, the RSA regarding town auditors, there's one section that says, starts out, it's 41:31-B, choice, semicolon, election. A municipality that has not hired an auditor under RSA 21J19 shall at the annual meeting, under an article in the warrant, choose one or more auditors. So, the town of Brookfield has already chosen auditors, and I don't know whether, as elected officials, who are compelled to follow the rules that then follow in this section to conduct the audits. This seems to be in conflict, what you're suggesting, with I just wonder whether or not this is going to be technically legal, given that there's already an there's auditors. And I guess the other thing that I would suggest on this matter is that perhaps if you asked DRA to come in and look at the books,
I don't think
instead of paying somebody to do this.
Okay.
I would think that DRA would have an interest in checking things.
Okay. So we may not have to call it an audit, we might have to call it a review of our books to deal with the RSA. But I think we should have an outside company come in and check the numbers. I mean.
And really, it's a different process from the auditors that we have, and the professionals that you would hire. Because the professionals that you would hire go into much greater depth. Now, I have two sections when our local auditors come out that I have to answer questions for, and they check items, but having the professionals would be a much more in-depth. It would probably be a 3-day process to go through everything.
I think we should do it to clear the air. Yeah. Ed?
When was the last audit done?
I don't-
Financial statement audit, anything?
I'll go look, because that's
Well, we audit because there's not 750, right? We have local auditors, and we fill out forms per DRA. And they look at the process, and they look at some sample transactions. You're an auditor? How am I doing?
Great. Yeah, great.
How am I doing? And if the treasurer, the tax collector, the town clerk, the trustees of the trust fund, all pass the DRA audit that is run by the elected auditors, then these folks sign off some papers, and we mail it down to DRA.
Follow-up.
Yeah.
Is it a financial statement audit?
No.
Or is it? It's
No.
not. So,
It's just checking information to make sure that, I'll give you an example. They'll pull a minimum of 3 to 4 deposits of mine and of the tax collectors, 3 of the town clerks, 3 of mine, and say, okay, what did you record in the books? Let me see the transaction. And they'll walk through the transaction. They'll walk through the transactions from the beginning to the end. Is it on the bank statement? Did it clear? The whole process. So that's more what the local auditors will do. When you get into the professionals, they're looking at much more in depth, many more transactions. When I have the audit at work, it's a minimum of probably 50 to 100 transactions they're looking at.
Can I have another follow-up? If we did hire an outside agency to do this, would they also offer advice
Yes.
on what we could do better,
Mhm.
how we could, deal with other issues financially in town?
My understanding is yes. They'll look at the process also.
I do have a copy of the last audit at home. But it was before I was treasurer. I know that.
Is that 10 years?
I've been in office since 2009.
No, it's time.
Yeah.
It's time. We'll do it. And if we get in trouble calling it an audit, we'll call it a review of the books. We have auditors that you do your thing and we'll have a review of our books.
No, we're really in trouble. All right.
And the auditors, and the auditors ask for it.
Well, the auditors have to have yours done soon, right? I'm not sure when we'll get ours.
No, I'm saying if they make a request, then could that get thrown into their budget?
Oh.
You
Good.
put it in ours, it makes a difference.
We just have to, we'll have to talk to the town meeting and tell them what we have to do.
Right.
Can't explain the numbers.
Okay.
Make a motion? I'm gonna make a motion?
What are we gonna motion?
That we're gonna have a review, that we're gonna have a review of the books by an outside firm.
Okay, I thought we were gonna bring that up at town meeting, but.
Well, we're gonna make a motion to do that at town meeting.
Okay.
All right?
Okay, make a motion.
I'll make a motion that at town meeting, we bring up a request to change the selectmen's expense item, add $10,000. They have an outside firm come in and review our books. Make sure that they're whole.
I think we have to make it very clear that there's no, we're not anticipating there being a problem. If people watching it, we don't anticipate that at all. It's just a matter of making the numbers work and see.
We'll go over our process, check the bank
Uh-huh,
statements,
Yep.
check all the checks, check all the transfers. And if we can't explain how the state works or how the town works, then we need some help.
Yeah, I just don't want rumors to,
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
I second the motion.
All right, all
you
right.
just made the motion.
I made it, he seconded.
Oh, you made it,
All
okay.
right.
I thought it was me.
We'll do it at town meeting. All in favor?
All right.
Aye. Okay. So Mary Lou, would you find some CPA firms to,
I'll
Yeah.
pick the one that did the county.
Isn't that a conflict?
Well, I would,
I would assume a CPA is not gonna risk their license. Are they not licensed?
They are
Okay.
licensed.
So-
No,
so
no,
you're
what does the
suggesting
paranoia
that-
stop?
that there's an issue with the books, and you're asking the person that does the books to find CPAs. That doesn't seem to jive.
All right, I'll find a CPA, okay?
Yes.
Thanks, Mary Lou. I'll take care of it.
Okay, we're gonna go to nothing on a tax collector. Laura, you have anything tonight? Yes.
Excuse me, yes, so I got a call from Kari Lybrand from Moose Mountain Regional Greenways, and they're gonna do a snowshoe walk on the Can property on March 5th, it's a Sunday. They requested parking in the townhouse parking lot.
You said okay?
It's a car. It makes some money.
That's town property.
Yeah. Okay,
So
good.
I think that was all I had.
Okay. How's the town report doing? Just about wrapped up, or we're waiting for one item? Nothing came today. I was told that we were waiting for one more piece of data from an outside accounting firm. We might have to go without that data or without that section and add it later. Got to go to, when are you going to be down in Concord, Bill?
You tell me, I'll pick it up.
Oh, looks like we have time this time, so you don't have to make a special trip.
Right. And there's going to be email, sent to them by email, right?
Right. Is that one of the pieces, though, that's required to be in the report? I'll need to check the list.
Yep.
What part was
The trustees of the trust fund.
I think it's required.
That's correct.
What he doesn't have is the latest interest from the fourth quarter. He had the report done, and when he did the calculations, he noticed that the interest wasn't included for the fourth quarter. That happened Friday night. Yesterday was a snowstorm in Concord, so I was hoping we'd have the report today.
I haven't heard anything, but I checked tonight.
We did. So, all right, let's look at the calendar.
What do we have to have it out
Let's
before?
look at the- let's look at the
week or
calendar.
10 days or
Let's
something.
look at the calendar.
7 days before, I think.
I think that next Monday is the absolute deadline. I was
The
hopeful-
27th
I was
or the
hopeful-
20th?
20th. I was hopeful to send it this Friday.
It's got to be posted, I would assume the 28th, 2 weeks before.
Monday, the 27th.
27th, it has to be
You
posted.
look at the wrong one.
I'm on the wrong.
Because that's when I have to have all
That's all the report's
the
gonna be.
reports have to be posted.
Okay, so it's got to be posted the 27th.
That's why that 20th is an absolute deadline. Even that cuts it way too
I think that's cutting it too close. We have to get it out the 17th. If we don't have the interest in there, can we put,
What we can do what we've done in the past, we put what he has in,
What he has.
and then
that's
we
what I'm
had a
saying, put an
sheet.
asterisk and put a note,
A sheet, we put he had a sheet.
add a sheet and just put a notation at the bottom, a footnote saying that this does not include fourth quarter interest, it's addendum to be forwarded. Just put like a small notation at the bottom with an asterisk. Because we have to do it.
Yeah, yeah.
But it will be full disclosure, that fourth quarter interest is not there.
Yeah.
That's fine. So I think the 20th, you gotta get it out.
So we're going to shoot for the 17th.
Yep.
They usually turn it around quickly.
Yeah, usually a few couple days.
Are you down there, is this a vacation week? Are you going to be working next week?
I'll be down there. I'll look at the dates. Yeah, I'll be down there.
Between you two guys, the printer's right on Main Street, right down from the town, from
By
the...
Friendly's, across from Friendly's.
So what the process usually is we email down the files. They print a copy. We look at that copy before we say make 150. Approved. So there's two pickups, the proof and then when they run them. And it makes it a lot easier.
If we're not, they can mail it to us.
Yeah, we got time. Okay, so we're gonna shoot for the 17th. We'll talk to you two folks to see for pickups. All right?
Got it.
17th, and I'll talk to him tomorrow.
Okay.
Planning board,
Nothing new to report. The next planning board meeting is February 16th. That's this Thursday at 6:30 p.m.
Ed, code enforcement?
Code enforcement's pretty quiet. Unless you've got something there on the desk for me that I don't know about.
No.
That's a veterans thing, right?
Yep, veteran. Okay, and the roads, you keep them busy?
Anybody busy on that department?
Quite the stretch.
As I texted you, obviously the roads are getting kind of narrow, but I'm all set to go push them back, but I figured we should wait till this next storm, which is supposed to end 10 o'clock on Thursday, and if it ends with a light snow by 10 and I can get it cleaned up, I'll start pushing everything back hard Thursday right after the storm, but if not, it'll be Friday and I'll be working Saturday at it
To the
too.
plug driveway?
So. Then I was wondering, did we ever do anything, there was some talk about a Facebook page for the town?
Mm-hmm.
Did that get established? Would
You should friend it.
What's that?
You should friend it.
Well, I will, I didn't, is it just Brookfield, New Hampshire, or?
How do we have it set up?
Well, I was wondering, can I post on it? From my, I watched a Wakefield Selectmen's meeting, and they were talking about, they were talking with the road agent over there, and he had made postings of things going on when something was broke, or to let the people know. And I thought, that's a pretty good idea. And such as, I'm sure people, I'm sure that people are just wondering why the roads are so narrow. They might not take things into consideration. But if I were to be able to post that, right after the storm, I'll be widening roads, or, I didn't know if.
Can we just give them the login information? Because you interface with Bettina, so you know how to work it. It's like,
Well,
Well,
if I'm
Tina-
short, I'm sure some of my kids will show me how.
right. So we just pass the login information to them.
Is that right?
You got.
Right?
I think it's fine. It's a great way to communicate that stuff.
In a sense, it'll help, if I got something going on, I can put it out there and just kind of spread the word of what's going on.
How many likes do we have?
No, there was
Well,
like a.
hopefully, well, it's okay.
But you get the word out.
You have kids.
It'll, no, I don't allow them all to do that. But, hopefully it'll grow, and it's also a good way for me to log what I've done, when I've done it, and where I'm doing it. So if there's any,
Will people communicate to you via this?
I'm not the person to ask that.
No, would you want them to communicate?
Do I want them?
No.
No, I'd rather
No.
have them call me.
I would agree.
We don't allow posts. Let me ask, I'm looking, we don't allow posts. It's one way.
Good.
That's kind of what I was hoping. Last thing I want to do is get into some conversation.
Her text. It's like passing notes in class.
Let the record show, the administrative assistant's cold. Turn the heat on. All right.
That was funny.
Burr.
Thanks, Brian.
Anything else, Ed?
No, I think, all in all, I think we're actually in pretty good shape.
Okay. There is no Conservation Commission here. Heritage Commission, you're not meeting now?
Nope.
One other thing before we go too far, but we have to make an adjustment on the floor for anything for the road, for winter maintenance for this year.
What?
I know we're past, a lot of our money was spent, but will we, because of the expenses we're getting in February, will we have enough money to get us through December or the end of the year?
The winter budget is what you're asking about?
Yes, a winter budget.
We have categories, but the the monies can be moved within, and we always.
You can work it out, okay.
Yeah, it always works out.
Nothing from the cemetery trustees, other boards or committees, nobody's here, old business, none. New business. Want to have another coffee? It's pretty easy. Want to have another coffee?
Up to you. Can we do it in the spring when it's warmer? April. I like April.
I was gonna do it the 5th before the town meeting.
Yeah, no.
Candidates for all those hotly contested
If they're there.
Because we have to set up for the town meeting too. We have to get the chairs and everything. All right, first guy with me.
What date?
5th. Isn't that, where's the calendar? Where's the calendar? The 4th.
Oh, 4th, yeah. I have the wrong day. All right,
8:30 to 10:30.
sure.
We'll put it on the board, we'll put it on the webpage, we'll put it on the Facebook page.
Okay.
Coffee and tea, and that's what we did last time. We'll try to recruit some pastries.
Okay.
We spend a couple hours. There's only one contested race,
Which one's that?
one of the planning board slots.
Oh, really?
Okay, and I put,
Notify the moderator.
sure. Yes, we'll let them know, yeah. We should, yep. They were doing some work in in the garage, and I got a call from the electrician, And he pointed out that, in his opinion, we got some issues with our electric work out there. And he strongly recommended that we put $4,000 worth of work in there to pull out copper tied to aluminum. Yeah, that's just not good. And a whole host of issues. And I said, well, our budgets are really tight this year. We just started. We'll consider it in the future. He doesn't want to do anything if he was going to do it until the summer. Because the wire from this generator, and we should talk about that, should be replaced. I think that's the aluminum wire.
The grounding wire?
No, it's
The one that
that's
feeds the box?
the two big ones are
Okay.
aluminum. They used to use aluminum because they were cheaper. It was
Yeah,
cheaper.
instead of copper.
And now it's all, yeah, it's not
It wasn't
good.
in that long ago that there should be a problem with that. I mean, that thing wasn't put in, 40 years ago or something, or whenever aluminum was big.
When did they pull the power to the,
Well, even then, it wouldn't,
Yeah, I'm not sure I understand tying copper directly to the aluminum, but I don't understand replacing the main aluminum. They still sell it, they still use it.
oh, you still do, okay.
and we don't have good grounds. The grounds aren't,
For the generator?
no, for the building.
Oh.
It's tough. So, I mean, everybody's been working on it over the years, doing their thing.
Mm.
And now he says, you really got something to think about here.
Can we table it till the summer and see what the budget looks like?
Yeah. I just said, he didn't go in there, because if he goes in there, he's got to make it up to code.
Yeah.
Right? But he says, you really should be aware that you got some issues.
That's fine.
Are you aware of any immediate thing that you need to do? Okay.
Yeah, let's table it, see what the budget's looking in the summer.
That's right. We had generator issues. Generator effectively failed. It wouldn't, when the power came back on, it wouldn't turn off.
Yeah, Jesse told me.
Yeah.
Just use gas. All you have to do is we need another delivery. So he came in and he fixed that, put a new battery in it. It's working fine now. That was last
Last week, or the week
Friday.
before.
Wednesday. Was they here Wednesday? No.
No, Jesse was,
Oh, Wednesday. You were here.
because
That's
Jesse was
right,
here
'cause you-
Friday and she was said it was running and you came in and,
That was the week before.
that was the
but
week before. And he came in this Wednesday to fix it.
Yes, because you left and he said, I gotta get back in. So I came in and opened it up. So we should see a bill for that.
Oh, yeah.
Propane, they filled both tanks now.
Okay, I have a bill
One
only for the
for
first
one,
one.
the
Yeah.
little one.
Yep.
They filled both. And the way we're using it, I'm sure they'll be back soon to fill the one we're living off of. We're only living off the one, right? You turned that, Ed? You turned.
Well, I switched them when it ran out.
Yeah.
I don't know if you wanna leave, if he left it that way, we should be running off one at a time.
Yes, we're trying to
I
run.
can check it.
We're trying to run off
I
the
gotta
one.
take them out after this next storm anyways.
It's the one that they can get to. The one- There's an easy one to get to. That one's supposed to be reserved. So would you check that? Because they'll be back. I
It'll
looked
be
at,
the first part of next week.
I looked, they'll be back because we're going down fast.
Well, really, I didn't surprise that you're going down that fast.
Since the one bill that Mary Lou has is 180 gallons, because I was expecting 800 gallons plus that.
It's 105 gallon,
Okay.
and it was done on 124.
So that's after you switched it. We used 124, give or take. Goes fast.
Well, yeah, but be careful, because when I turned that on, before I don't know if you recall, but before I realized what was going on, it was coming out of that tank and going into the other tank. Because I just opened the valve and I heard it, it didn't dawn on me that I need to shut the empty off because they'll balance, they'll automatic. If you leave them both on, the full one will put half a tank into the empty one.
You'll equalize the
So it
two.
all depends, really. Don't use that, filling that tank as a gauge to how much you use.
Okay.
Depends on how much you put into the empty one.
Okay. So you're gonna check we're only living on one.
Yeah.
Anything? Yes. Ed.
Do we have a maintenance agreement on that generator?
Yes.
Yes.
We were doing the generator connection for a year. We found them pretty costly, and we went over to Dame and he comes out every 6 months?
Yep, he just did it, just changed the battery, the oil, when he was here, he did it all.
So if it needs anything, there's no like service agreement where parts are included?
No. Insurance on it? No. Anything else?
Checks and bills.
Okay, we'll look at those. Any mail? Let's see what kind of mail we have. I got a letter just for your information that Fred Can put his land into conservation. So Jessica, the assessor clerk, will see that deed come through when that comes through, but he put in 150 acres of his land went into conservation.
That's the land that we're gonna do social
Yes,
work on.
yes, and he sent a note to us about that.
Guess I'll sign it.
Just for our information, virtual town hall, our website software has been, there's a new version, new capabilities that I think they want to sell us. They're not stopping support of the one we have yet. But they're telling us to take a look at the new one because it's so much nicer and easier to use. Software, right? You make
It's
a lot
that
of
easy, it should be easier for them to use, so that it works.
software. That's how you make your money. You do an upgrade. What else do we have? You make it better, make you buy it. Department of Transportation, Red List Bridge Report.
Yeah, it wasn't too long ago you just had one. You handed me one, I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
This is February 1st. And I just gave you one last month.
Yeah, I don't know if it made it on.
All towns have gotten that.
I think we got two this year. Year's not that old.
We're missing a sheet.
Thank you.
Does it replace the other ones?
If these gentlemen that were here were saying, I didn't catch all of their conversation, but if the state has mandated something, it might be just another copy of the one until last actual inspection. Because I doubt they went out there on February 1st.
The state's red list came down, and the municipal red list, the state's in the municipal came down a little, but it doesn't say anything about replacing the other one. We'll just make sure we have the latest one. Any other mail that we should? On the Gaffney Library, did you see that? That's a bill.
Already?
Oh, and guess what? We're getting ready to do the census in 2020.
All right.
I know. I know that number. I know that.
That's not a little.
Supposed to be 14. Yeah, that's right, 13. I get the wrong number, and they're asking for their.
I already heard all my squawk.
So to support the Payport Reduction Act, we have this package that.
Sends you to a website.
It doesn't. So we'll look at it. It's addressed to the board just to get ready for the
Let's save this one till after.
census which is coming.
You never know.
Any other mail that we should go over? Moose Mountain Greenway, we got their flyer. Okay. And I guess, any,
You have a letter did you from somebody in town?
I don't know if to read it, do we?
No, you'd be surprised. Or at least summarize it. If we have to decide.
Oh, we had
Decide
talked
now.
the other day about some of the different processes that we'd like to put in place, and one of them would be going to a manifest system for the bills, so that, we tried it a couple times before while I was treasurer, and it just hasn't worked, because I get most of the bills here at the meeting. But I think I will come up with a form to where I can list the bills that I have ahead of time and add to it, and then we can present it as a manifest for the selectmen to approve.
So you'll need a cutoff date time, like Sunday before the meeting, or are you gonna do it today? I mean, how are you gonna work it?
I think bills will have to be added to the form at the meeting, because sometimes I get here and we have bills.
Yeah, we hand it to you. That's open mail.
Yeah. Okay, a work in progress. I'll try to come up with a form and we'll start there.
Okay, yeah, we can talk about the process.
Yeah.
Any comments on the presentation we had tonight? Any,
I have a question. Seems I don't believe we pay dues. If we require this, if we request them to do a study for us, is that gonna require us to pay dues?
don't know?
No,
But-
no, I don't believe so. I believe that you can, Ed, you can chime in on this, but I believe that it's à la carte. So if there's something outside of what they otherwise, you know, because we're not paying dues.
Contract.
Thank you,
Contract.
thank you. That's the word that I was searching for.
I'm willing to give them an opportunity.
I think it was very wise of you to
Work in the-
cable.
work in the
to
country.
improve their standing there.
In the
and our
community, because if it falls flat, we gave it a shot, you know?
It's worth a shot.
Where is their office? For this area?
Rochester.
Oh, it is Rochester. It sounded like they were more big city, like
Yeah.
Concord, Manchester.
Right next to the
Yeah.
small schools.
Oh, okay.
You don't have cable? Everybody has cable.
No.
No? Everybody
I do, but I'm
doesn't.
dropping it.
Then everybody, yeah, that's a
Not
different
willing to
issue.
pay.
So, everybody has cable, no? Okay, yeah, Ed?
In Concord, there was a bill that came through that was going to give authority to municipalities to bond out certain projects, which they can't do that now for some reason. And that was the example we were given on the floor, was that Burlington, Vermont bonded out their cable in order to give everybody cable. And it was a disaster. Now the taxpayers had to pick up, you know, a multi-billion dollar, maybe not billion, I don't know the number, a large amount of money that they were now sacked with because it went up. Because they wanted to bond it and allow a non-public entity, non-profit entity, to actually do the work. And it wound up being raw with corruption and oversight. There's a whole lawsuit.
It makes you wonder, who owns, you know, if the town bonds it, that means the town's paying for it. So does the town now own part of the cable system?
Yes, that's
And it gets involved, much like our power, you have a system, and then you have a generating and a delivery system, and it just seems disastrous to me. It's either that or go all the way and get your own new cable.
Well, Burlington's very progressive, so they must have had more foresight than us country bumpkins.
Apparently not enough.
How much is the cost for the satellite service, and is that any good?
No.
Well,
Well-
it's good, but it's expensive, and you don't get your cable. Are you talking for internet, or are you talking about for TV?
Internet.
Horrible. HughesNet,
Expensive.
very
slow.
expensive. Doesn't even come close to what they say as far as a like speed rate. Not even close. And then you call and say, "I'm never even close to that." They go, "Well, we say up to." Like,
And if you use up to the amount that you pay for, then they dial you back, so you start to go very slow.
yeah,
So it's
it's
not very effective.
horrible system
We've got some,
in my experience.
we've got some people in town that don't have phone service, landlines, no wires.
Right.
They're off the grid, man.
They're off the grid, and they want service, but they can't even get a phone line, let alone DSL.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Have a big cell phone bill, I guess.
So, well,
If you-
yeah, you're gonna be,
Hey, they chose to
Okay.
move it.
The
so,
telephone company wants them to pay to bring it in.
I don't know.
What, do they live way off the road, like?
No, they live on the other side of the lake.
Oh.
They get power.
Oh, all right, you said they, no cables going to the house, so like, how?
There's no, there's electricity, but there's no phone lines.
Ah, fiddly dee. Okay.
Surprising.
This is my observation in regards to the cable system. Companies don't want to expand because it takes capital. The towns don't want to, pay for it themselves. So it seems to me that the cable company waits to see if the town is going to somehow get grants, like he mentioned, or some type of federal funding
Subsidize the product.
to subsidize putting more wires in. So it seems like they're just waiting, because obviously there's people in town that want the system, they want the service, but they won't expand because they would have to spend the money to expand. So they would seem to be waiting for that money to flow in from somewhere else. And then you start getting into this public-private partnership with the feds, because it's usually federal money that's doing it. And I still cannot stop saying this, but 5 years ago I said 16 trillion. Now we're up to 20 trillion. Where is the federal government getting this money to now give everybody to have cable? It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Okay.
And I don't know what the answer is, except that technology is changing. They're talking about that 6G.
Five.
What is it?
Five generation, five LTE. They're trialing, Verizon and AT&T are now trialing the next generation cell phone service. Bandwidth is better than cable, and they're trialing it. So cable companies aren't really excited about deploying more wire. But it's gonna be decades before it comes up to the country, right? So that's what I wanted to give those guys, a challenge to do something with the people that live in the country. I mean, the city's one thing, but
What company was doing this?
AT&T and Verizon.
Maybe we should contact them. Maybe we could be the pilot program for the technology. Why not try
I don't
it?
think so.
Why not? Why not just ask? We could be the pilot.
Our zoning doesn't permit it. You should go to the zone, read our zoning.
Our cell tower
Yeah,
regulations
you
aren't tall enough for
Yeah,
that.
that's right.
Zoning ordinances can be changed.
One right on top of
Go
Moose
for
Mountain.
it. Go for it.
That's just an
Good
idea.
luck
Big
to
town,
them.
Moose Mountain.
Go for it.
In the middle of the lake, one on Stoneham Road.
Take a look at
We got
those fake
covered.
trees.
I believe Diane said she had a spot.
Well, be better on the other side of the road.
I was here when we did the whole cell tower issue, and we're
Yes.
talking way back when, boy, that was crazy, trying to keep it to tree line. I mean, you want to talk about a fight, that was big time, big time.
Times change.
Yes.
True, I agree.
Okay.
All right. So we got some invoices, some checks.
And don't forget, we got the veterans exemption.
Veterans exemption.
Let's
How'd
sign
it go?
away.
Where'd the veterans exemption go?
I signed it.
You did? You put it in this file?
It's in that bag you handed to you. Split it over here.
Is that the warrant article?
No, it's someone that applied, and the new assessing firm approved it. Well,
Is it under
they gave
your-
us the recommendation, and so we're approving it.
We'll get it. All right. So that's what we're gonna do. Sign.
Did you find it?
Not yet. Throw it away.
Hey, Mary, don't pick it up.
There it is.
There it is, thank you. Okay. Please sign if you approve. So we've got a request for a exemption on property tax. Yep. MSRs?
Maybe I think from the bank interest for last year.
Oh, so when we file taxes.
Flags.
Thank you. I don't think we're getting bank statements from Meredith anymore. They shut us up, the paper ones.
Oh, they want-
I haven't seen them.
And the
Profile.
Conservation Commission says they're not seeing theirs because they're going to
I
you.
know.
Because
No,
they're
they
going.
don't, no, they
No.
don't get them at all. I have to go online and print them.
Oh, it's one of those now?
Yeah, I think they've cut me off, I have to call them. So I'm gonna pay the first January for the school district this time, and I will pay February next meeting. So then we're caught up. Oh, here, I'm interested in this.
Get the letter back, we'll talk about
I
that.
think the advertising for the Saturday morning coffee brought any people out to Warren, doing that again.
I wouldn't,
I would say, I don't think. it's
I wouldn't do that, I put the board out front, put it
Yeah,
up on the
because it says
webpage.
that we advertise it again.
Yes, we do, it's in the paper, he tried hard.
Between that and the website,
We really only have like 70 students, 71 students.
Yeah, I just went through the list the other day.
I got an email from Mary, oh, here. Did you see my,
You're gonna give that to Lori, right?
I did.
Because she's gonna check the letter that we wrote to them describing how many people we had.
So I asked for 14,000. So that made it like 17,000, almost 18,000
Yes,
a year.
yes, yes, they're very
Not the
proud of
children,
that.
but-
They're very proud of that. No more Verizon bills, right?
No.
I met with Eleanor, talked about cleaning next door for the town meeting. She said, you get it. Whoa. Must be snowing. Okay.
now this avatar is for
It's zero.
0.
zero, okay. Whoop, I looked at it, I was gonna say.
I still signed it, I figured. Huh?
Zero.
You'll get to see
They're done.
The new assessor came in, his Friday visit, just found him really knowledgeable, pretty efficient as well, so she thinks we're gonna do good with him.
I think so. Second Friday in a month, he's scheduled to come in. Unless we say don't come.
Right.
Or unless it snows. Like it has been.
Every other day.
Did you measure how much we got?
No, that's not really.
Too depressing.
Well, then now they're up to 10 to 14 for the next.
Yeah, that's what the winter storm warning said, that seems kinda high.
Yeah, I thought so too, but you know what?
At what point does it not matter anymore? You know, once you get above 8 inches,
I
it's
look
that.
now.
Oh, here are the rest of the-
I look duration, 7 on
Oh, I
one,
don't get that.
10 the next one.
You
It's-
won't hold on to it.
Did Bill sign? Meeting adjourned?
And we're gonna sign some more checks, but we don't get to be open for that. All right. Meeting's adjourned then. Thank you.